Hey, welcome everyone. I hope you enjoyed coffee and bagel just now and spent some time meeting some other attendees. We'll be randomly selecting one winner as a recipient for the $50 Starbucks gift card. The winner will be receiving an email from us in a few minutes, so please be on the lookout for that. We'll announce all three winners at the end of the day as well on the conference platform main page. So please continue to participate in coffee and bagel during each break throughout the conference and enjoy the opportunity to meet the other attendees. The session you have just joined is titled Supporting the Common Data File Process. As a reminder, you are on track 2, the ProLink Plus HAF track. So please make sure you're on the right track here based on what you signed up for. So if you're looking for ProLink HFA, that will be on track 1. But before we start the session, I'd like to take a few minutes to cover some other housekeeping items here. So first, on the right side of the screen, you do have access to the chat feature. In order to use it, you do have to first hit the join button. After that, you'll see a little red dot notifying you of any messages. Feel free to post any questions or comments throughout the session in the chat, and we will try to provide responses or follow up individually after the session. Please note that your posts are visible to all other attendees. And then here, this is where you can download a copy of the PowerPoint on the session page in the Attendee Hub. You can download this anytime before, during, or after the session. But without further ado here, I'm going to let Joe take it away and begin the session here.
Excellent. Thank you, Jim. I'll go ahead and share my screen here. All right. And again, just to reiterate, as Jim mentioned, this session is covering the CDF or Common Data File process that is used for supporting the Homeowner Assistance Fund. This is not the LIHTC track. This is the Homeowner Assistance Fund track. So if you are supposed to be on the LIHTC track and you're here, I'm glad to have you, but this may not really relate to you. So I guess I'll leave it at that. So now back to the heart of the matter. Let's talk about the CDF. And those of you that are still with me, thanks in advance. The CDF can be somewhat of a dry topic, but it's really, you know, thinking on it from a high level, it's really something pretty cool that is really kind of the heart of the Homeowner Assistance Fund. And so what we'll do is we'll start off talking about just what the CDF is, high level how it works, and then we'll look at what the CDF looks like in ProLink Plus, some of the processes around interacting with the CDF, and some reporting and features in the system. So let's start talking about just what is the CDF, and it is communication with servicers. So why do we have it? So without the CDF, you know, the Homeowner Assistance Fund, right? 50 states plus territories plus some Native American tribes and things like that. They are all able to award Homeowner Assistance Fund money, right? And what those benefits typically take the form of are mortgage assistance, right? And that goes to the mortgage servicers. So you've got all these different parties acting on behalf of homeowners, trying to do business essentially with mortgage servicers. And without the CDF or Common Data File protocol, like, it would just be up to everybody to kind of figure out, okay, how do we tell the servicer they're going to get some money? How does the servicer tell us they got money, right? How does all of this different communication happen? And so actually the Homeowner Assistance Fund's predecessor, the Hardest Hit Fund, out of that, which I believe the Hardest Hit Fund came out of the 2008 financial crisis, but again, it was principally designed for mortgage relief. And out of that, the Common Data File Protocol was created as a standard way for benefit providing agencies, state agencies typically, to communicate with servicers and vice versa for servicers to communicate back with state agencies. And so the CDF covers multiple phases of the homeowner assistance lifecycle, from kind of an introductory how do you do through everything is done and we are terminating benefits. So it really, there is a lot to unpack for the CDF. What is it? So the Common Data File, it is typically an Excel file. The design of it is so that it's something that can be handled in an automated fashion, right? Lots of systems out there can take an Excel file and import it or export it automatically. However, you can also manually open an Excel file and just type data into it. It's also designed to accommodate that. Some of your smaller servicers, maybe state agencies, don't have the ability to, they don't have technology for importing and parsing Excel files. So it needs to be something that someone can just handle on their own as well. Again, the CDF it consists of the exchange of records between servicers and the state. So it's really about information flowing back and forth. The file itself, as an Excel file is, it has rows and columns. Each row is a CDF record, and each column is a data point. Each record has a record, and that record type indicates kind of at a high level, this is the information we are trying to convey to you. So record types are a bunch of different letters. We'll get into that a little bit later, but basically a CDF can contain information on a lot of different mortgages and a lot of different information on those mortgages. And last bullet point here, there are approximately, and I say this because I think there are some columns that are no longer used. The CDF is something that has evolved over years, but there are approximately 153 columns of data in the CDF or in a CDF record. So all sorts of different data can be passed back and forth. All right, how does the CDF help? So I think I've kind of gotten into this already, but it streamlines communication between state agencies and servicers. Again, without it, it would just be, maybe the states that would do the best would be the ones that, hey, I know somebody at the servicer, so we have an in on their email, right? Or with the CDF, everyone can participate, and it's as easy as kind of following the rules of the CDF. It lets many different pieces of information be conveyed in one file. So it's a convenient way to get information from state to servicer or servicer to state. And then, the last thing I'll mention, so the CDF itself is, it's a pretty cool thing, but on a fairly regular cadence, and I'm not quite sure what it is now, maybe once a month, maybe a couple times a month, there are nationwide calls, nationwide forums put on by NCHSA, and I believe, or at least they were put on by NCSHA, now they're put on by Treasury. But basically, it's a forum for state agencies, mortgage servicers, and technology providers like us to come together and discuss the CDF and perhaps issues that they are seeing with the CDF, and it's a forum for everyone to get together and talk and collaborate. And again, it's something that is really a good thing, because at the heart of the HAF program, we're trying to help people keep their homes, right? And so if we can make that a more efficient process, and if we can work together to get better, how can that be a bad thing, right? All right, so that is how the CDF helps. All right, and I promise I'll stop waxing so poetic in a little bit. Now let's get a little bit deeper into what the CDF is. So common data file format, again, it's an Excel file. It can be an XLSX or XLSX, looks like a typo there, which is your standard Excel file that you open and save on your desktop. It can be a CSV, which is kind of a predecessor to an Excel file, but something you can still open and manipulate in Microsoft Excel. Each of those formats are fine. The format, as I mentioned earlier, it's designed to support either automation or manual process. So since it's standardized, it is something that we can deal with systematically, right? It's something we can just import into a system and look at. But since it's an Excel file, it's also something you can open up and read manually and enter data manually. One row per mortgage, per program, per record type. What does that mean? So basically, a row in the CDF is, here's some information about this mortgage. Or rather, here's a specific piece of information about this mortgage. So the same mortgage could actually show up more than once in the same file. And the most common scenario where this happens is, and again, we'll get into this in a little bit, but as a state, if I want to reinstate a mortgage, I send a certain type of record to the mortgage servicer saying, hey, we've got so-and-so with this mortgage. They've said you're the servicer. We want to bring it current. In addition, if I want to pay monthly benefits on that, I need to send another record that indicates, hey, I've got this mortgage from so-and-so. They've indicated you're the servicer. We want to make monthly payments on that mortgage. And so those two different pieces of information, we want to reinstate this mortgage. We want to catch this person up. And we want to make monthly payments on this mortgage. Those would be two different records in the same file that we would send to the servicer. And that would indicate to the servicer, all right, we've got an agency that is interested in helping this borrower. Let's giddy up, let's do it, right? In 153 columns of data per row. It's a super wide file. However, the columns are kind of organized by what information they're conveying. So some of them are, here's just general information about the mortgage. Here's who the borrower is. Here's the address. Here's that stuff. Some of it is, all right, what's the monthly payment on the mortgage? How much are they past due? Another section is, here's some money that we sent you. Another section is, here's some money that we received. So it's, again, I won't say that it's really ever something convenient to get into and look at, but there is a method to the madness. And so if you kind of know what you're looking for, typically stuff related to that is going to be close by in the file. Except the last bullet point, despite the standardization, there's still areas where states and servicers use the file differently. There's one of the wonderful things about the country we are all in is that if you have 50 different states trying to do the same thing, odds are it'll be done 50 different ways, right? And that's just how it works. And in addition to that sort of variety, you also have, you know, tons of different servicers servicing mortgages, and they don't all do things quite the same way either. And so there are some fields in the CDF that will be used differently depending on the state, depending on the servicer. There are also some kind of custom fields that it's like, hey, we don't have, there's not a defined place for this piece of information, so we're going to use one of these kind of other catch-all fields. And, you know, catch-all field one could be, and I don't think this is actually a valid example, but let's say it could be the origination date for one servicer, and for another servicer, it could be the borrower's credit score, right? I mean, it could just be two completely different random things, and that's just how the CDF works. So it is as standardized as can be while still allowing states and servicers the freedom to kind of be themselves, right? All right. So moving on, let's talk about record and program types in the CDF. And I apologize, it's going to get a little bit dry here. So in the current version of the CDF, that is version 7.4, which I think just went live at the end of August after a long summer of working on those advancements from version 7.3, there are 5 different program types. And so the different program types in the CDF sort of indicate different types of benefits that are coming from the state. And so in the example I brought up just a little bit ago, right, if we want to pay benefits, let's say we want to reinstate somebody's mortgage or bring them current, but we also want to make monthly payments, I'm going to need to send records with 2 different program types for that same mortgage to let the servicer know, hey, one program, reinstatement, I want to run this mortgage through, bring the current, and then another program, monthly payment assistance, I want to run this mortgage through because I intend to make their monthly payment for a certain period of time. And so I mentioned there are 5, and so let's go through the 5. There's not going to be a test on this, and again, this deck will be available to you for download, so you can use this as a reference. Full disclosure, I lifted these from the CDF 7.4 spec. But so the first one is the P program, a loss mitigation with state contribution. And so this is, a state is going to provide some money for the borrower to work out sort of a change in loan terms. So it might be a situation where we can't give you enough money to bring you current. However, we can still give you some money, which will help you, you know, negotiate better terms with your mortgage servicer. So that type of scenario would be under a P program. The next program is the R program, reinstatement. This is however behind the borrower is, I want to know about it, and I want to pay you that amount to bring them current and get them back in good standing with you. So that's an R program. The U program, monthly payment assistance, used to be known as unemployment, still is in certain places. This is we intend to provide monthly payments for this mortgage. So the U program again means whatever the monthly payment amount is, the state intends to make one or more of those payments to the servicer. J, lien extinguishment. It helps the borrower extinguish a lien. I'm not going to go through all of this detail. Just let you know that again, this this slide deck is available as a resource. And lastly, the K program, recast principal curtailment. So somewhat similar to a P program. It is, here's some funds to help the borrower out, to help you recast the loan, to help you do a principal curtailment. So those are the different program types. And on this slide and a slide coming in just a couple here. So credit to, there's a guy named Ralph Shea that works for Wells Fargo that has maintained the CDF spec or the CDF data dictionary, excuse me, for a while. And so all of this I took pretty much word for word from the CDF data dictionary. And so this may not be the proper way to cite sources, but I do need to give credit to Ralph for the tremendous lift that he's taken on for years now of sort of being the official book of record for the CDF. All right, then just when you thought it was going to get simpler, now let's talk about CDF record types. So there are 17, by my count, different CDF record types. And I thought this record was pretty fitting, or this picture rather was pretty fitting. I honestly tried to look for a picture of a bowl of alphabet soup to put up here, because that's, every record type has its own unique letter, and there's 17 letters, and it's sometimes it makes sense what the letter is, sometimes it doesn't make sense. And on these CDF calls, you'll hear people talking about B records and P records, and it's honestly, if you don't know what they're talking about, it just sounds like alphabet soup. So we'll dig into what the record types are. Again, we've got a glossary of what those record types are coming up here. But each record type, again, which corresponds with its own unique letter, indicates a different action or event. So CDF, I think always, or at least most always, begins with the I record, which is an initial state submission, which is the state essentially reaching out to the servicer saying, hey, we've got this loan and we're interested in paying some benefits, and what can you tell us about it? Each record type is directional. I believe there are no record types that can be sent either from a servicer or from a state. So in other words, some of the record types will be from a state to a servicer, and then the remainder will be from a servicer to a state. I don't think there's any commingling of record types. So what are the state to servicer records? All right, I'm not going to read all of this, but I'll read some of it. So there is an A record, which indicates an approval. This is something that the state will send to a servicer just before money's coming. This will let the servicer know, hey, you should expect to see some money from us. A B record, a bulk payment transfer. This is, we sent you some money. This is what it's for. A D record, a state decline, is, hey, we've talked a little bit about this mortgage. We declined benefits for it, so don't expect anything more from us. A G record, guaranteeing funds. This is less common. This is seen on a P program, loan mod with state contribution, and a K program, I believe, the recast or principal curtailment. Basically, a G record is a way of letting a servicer know, here's how much money you can count on from us in this whole process. An I record, initial state submission. Again, this is the state reaching out initially saying, hey, we've got this person. They say they have a mortgage. They say you service it. We're interested in helping them out. What can you tell us about it? A Q record is kind of a follow-up to an I record. Basically, it's you sent us some information. That information is old. Can you update it? That's what a Q record is. A T record, a termination. We paid you some money. We're not going to send you any more. Here's a T. And a W record is a withdrawal. I think it's similar to a T record, but it indicates the borrower is being withdrawn. And I'll have to double check this and maybe fix this. W might come from the servicer. I don't think so. If anyone out there watching this has more detail, now I'm questioning what I knew about the W. But anywho, let's move on to servicer to state records. So again, I'm not going to read this word for word, but I will go through them. So what kind of information is the servicer going to send to the state? So start with a C record or a change. A change can indicate updated loan information. So that's not something you'll see frequently, but if it is something that comes in, probably indicates that some information you have about that mortgage needs to be modified. An E record, a change in payment, sent to communicate a change in payment that is not yet contractually due. So again, things are changing with the information that you think you have. Here's what's changing. An F record, final terms. This happens with a loan modification process. Not tremendously common. An O record, an obstacle. So this used to be called an objection. However, it was renamed to an obstacle to indicate that we really do want to do all we can to get money flowing through the system. But basically, an O record is, I see that you want to pay benefits for this applicant, but it may not be as easy as you think. And here's why. A P record, payments applied. This is sent in response to the state notifying a servicer that, hey, we sent you some money. The P record is, hey, we got the money and we applied it. P record can also let you know you paid too much or you paid too little. A V record, a validation. This is sent in response to that initial handshake. That is, okay, yep, here's some information on the loan, and let's dance, so to speak. An X record, again, not all that common, but if the borrower and the servicer are trying to work out some sort of a loan mod, and the state is going to contribute some funds to that, the servicer will send the X to the state saying, hey, that money you said you could help us out with, can you send it, please? That's kind of what the X is. A Y record, that is sent as a response to the state saying, hey, our information is old. The Y record is, okay, it's a revalidation or a requote. It's, okay, here's the latest snapshot for this loan, including how much they owe, how much they're past due, things like that. And an R record, this is something that a servicer will send back to the state if the state sent too much money, or if they're just refunding money to the state. So it should indicate, hey, here's some money we sent back to you, and here's what we know about it. And credit again to Ralph Shea at Wells Fargo, because with some minor formatting, I lifted this from the CDF data dictionary. Whew, All right, I apologize. Thank you for bearing with me through that. That was a little heavy. So what is the CDF? We'll conclude with the Happy Path, kind of a very simplified, what does the CDF process look like when everything goes well? And tried to chart this in a friendly way. Hopefully it works. Either way, let's go with it. So at this point, let's assume someone has applied for benefits. Let's assume the state's aware of them, and let's go through it. So the state, hey, we've got an applicant that needs assistance and we want to help out. And the way that they indicate this to the servicer is they send an I record to them, right? And then jumping over here to the servicer, they receive that I record. And that is an indicator to them, hey, looks like the state agency wants to pay for this mortgage or pay some benefits for this mortgage. Great. And then they respond with the detail of the loan and how much they're past due, what their monthly payment is, things like that. And the servicer will send a V record, a validation, back to the state agency. Yep, we've got the mortgage, here's the information. The state then takes that V record, and typically this is something that will help with the underwriting process. And so in this scenario, hey, great, looks like they're past due $20,000, that's what they owe to catch up, and this is when it's due. Yep, we can pay those benefits, great. And so the state will underwrite that applicant, and when they're approved for benefits, they will send an A record to the servicer. And the servicer receives that A record, and that lets them know, all right, looks like we're about to receive some money for this mortgage. So that lets the servicer know, okay, we should expect that money is now going to come for this mortgage from this state. Now notice there's not a response from the servicer. It's just after this happens, the ball is back in the state agency's court. So, hey, we're going to pay some money. We have approved this applicant, send the A record. And then the next thing that happens is the state actually will send some money to the servicer. And typically that'll be in the format of an ACH payment, sometimes a wire transfer, very rarely a check. But typically when a state sends money to a servicer, right, it'll be, hey, we've got 10 applicants we're sending money for. We're going to send you one payment for all those 10 applicants. And then the B record is, okay, applicant 1, we paid $1,000. Applicant 2, we paid $2,000. Applicant 3, we paid, whatever. And all of those B records should add up to the amount of that ACH transfer that went to the servicer. And that B record lets them know, all right, that big chunk of money, here's how you break it down and apply it to your portfolio. And so on the servicer side, they receive the B record, and with a little dramatic liberty, they say, we got a wire and we didn't know what it was for. Thank you for telling us. We have applied those payments. When the servicer applies those payments, they send a P record back to the state agency, or one or more P records to the state agency, right? The state agency then gets that P record and says, all right, look, great. We sent them money. We told them what it was for, and they got it and they applied it. So that's kind of that's hopefully the most common record exchange. As a HAF program is up and running, that process, can repeat several times. So here's some money. We got it. Here's some more money. We got it. Here's some more money. We got it. I mean, I don't think there's really a defined limit to the number of times that can happen. But odds are that kind of little dance will happen more than once. Then after that last payment has been sent to the servicer, after the servicer has acknowledged receipt, then the state will say, all right, we've given you all we planned on giving you, and we're done. And they will send a T-record termination to the servicer. Hopefully, the servicer gets that T-record. It's okay, good. We shouldn't expect any more payments from the agency on this loan. We've got them back on their feet, and hopefully they will start making payments on their own now. So that is kind of the CDF Happy Path. Lots of things can and do come up along the way, including obstacles to paying benefits, including withdrawals, including reinstatement information becoming stale, lots of things. But you know, if every CDF record exchange went this way, I have a feeling some of you out there listening would be a lot happier and a lot less stressed. So that's kind of the happy path again for how CDF records flow back and forth between a state and a servicer. All right, so now let's jump into what the CDF looks like in ProLink Plus. So we'll start off with queuing records in ProLink Plus. So most outbound records, outbound CDF records, in other words, records that will be sent from state to servicer are manually queued by agency staff. And the reason for this is because, you know, usually it's kind of a step in the process of that application. Okay, we're ready to underwrite this application. All right, let's send an I record to the servicer. Let's get some more information from them so we can know that we are underwriting with the correct loan detail. We've approved them for benefits. All right, let's go ahead and queue up an A record so we can send that out. Our reinstatement information is stale. We need to request new information. Those kinds of things. Queuing of records is typically something that's going to be a checklist item. So as someone is working on an application, and in order for them to keep moving that application forward, they're going to have to basically verify that they've queued that CDF record in order to do that. When a record is queued, we do capture who did it and when they did it. And last thing, B records. So that's what a state sends to a servicer saying, hey, here's what the money's for. Here's where you need to apply it. Those are the only records that are automatically or systematically queued. So when a disbursement is marked paid in our system, we generate a B record that can then be sent to the servicer with details of that disbursement. All right, how to queue CDF records in ProLink. So we've got a slide here with some information on it, and I am actually going to, let's just do this in real time. So I will bring back over our demo site here, and it's probably timed out, so we'll log in here. Go. All right, and I'll hop back in the application I was demoing out of earlier today. If you were unlucky enough or lucky enough, depending on your own opinion, to attend the last session. But all right, so I'm working on this application, right? And let's say next step, we're going to underwrite it. But before that happens, I need to send some information to the servicer, or letting them know that that this borrower is interested in some half assistance, and we need to make sure we've got the right information, and we need to know how much we need to pay. So I would come into the CDF record screen, and again, demo environment. So there's some junk data here, but we'll see a listing of all the CDF records that have gone out or come in for this application. But it also lets me queue records. So first thing I do is, what do I want to send to the servicer? So in this case, I want to send them an I record. For what program type? Again, what kind of benefits am I looking to pay here? Most common are going to be an R and a U. I'll select reinstatement. I want to bring this mortgage current. Then you pick your mortgage servicer. This is information coming directly from the application. And you pick the program that the application is being run through. It is possible to run an application through multiple programs. So that's where that would come into play. All right, and I've got all that information selected. I'd go ahead and queue the record. And now notice in my CDF records grid down here, I've got an I record that is queued for transfer, created by me at this time. Couple things to note. If we're sending a D record, meaning we didn't approve them for benefits, nothing's coming your way, or a T record, we're done sending you money, you have one additional option to pick from, and that is the reason for denial or termination. And these are defined in the CDF data dictionary, but so queuing a CDF record is typically as easy as selecting 4 pieces of data. Occasionally you got to select 5. All right, what are some extra details on queuing records in ProLink Plus? If you want to reinstate a mortgage and make monthly payments, you'll need to queue 2 different I records, one with an R or reinstatement program type and one with a U program type. Next bullet, if you are terminating or declining, then you'll have to select the reason. And lastly, we try to stop you. If a program is inactive, meaning we're not working on this anymore, it's dropped out for some reason, typically we won't let you queue CDF records, because if, why would you want to convey information back and forth with the servicer if you're not moving that application forward? The exception to this is if you are terminating benefits or denying, and then we'll let you send that, because all right, it's dropped out on our side. Basically a T or a D record is letting the servicer know that, hey, it's dropped out. So that could be a gotcha, and you'll see that when you go to queue a record. If this ProLink Plus program is blank, basically that means I'm trying to queue something that this needs to be active in order for me to queue. And again, active just means it's something we're actively working on. It hasn't dropped off our radar. When you deny an application, you kind of want to get it out of the way, make it inactive. All right. Now let's talk about importing and exporting records. And saying this always makes me think of who was it? This George Costanza's Seinfeld character who imports and exports things. But anyway, it's getting CDF records out of and into the ProLink Plus system. And so, as I mentioned in the last session, we actually use the CDF records data view to export CDF records from ProLink Plus. And so, out of the box, the CDF records data view comes with some standard reports that are records that have been queued to go out. Oops. And it looks like I've set up a filter in that data view, but all right, so we've got some CDF records that are ready to go out. These are queued B records. And to get them out of the system, what I will typically do is filter for one servicer at a time, because I don't want to send, you know, say USAA mortgage details to Chase and vice versa. And then what I can do is, all right, I want all these records in a file. I'll click this export mark as exported. And the system will generate a CDF file for me that I can then send to Chase with all these B records. So queuing a CDF record is as easy as that, or rather exporting a CDF record is as easy as that. Importing a CDF record, so we have a utility to import CDF files. When those come back from the servicer, you'll take those, you'll come to this screen, you'll browse for your file and upload it. I'm actually going to wait on this for a couple minutes because I have an example that either way, I want to import it a little bit later because of something I want to show you guys. So that's what exporting looks like. One other detail, after records have been exported, they will no longer show up in the queued records view. They'll show up in the exported records view. So we're not going to let you export the same thing twice. And in that CDF record screen in the application, in addition to seeing who initially queued up the record and when they did it, you'll also see who exported the record and when they did it. And importing records. So I will jump into this in just a minute. But now let's talk a little bit about reporting on the CDF in ProLink Plus. So kind of building on last session, most of the CDF reporting in the system is going to be done with data views. So we have designed our system in such a way that you know, we know that some servicers may not have the process completely dialed in. We know that the different things they'll send to us, basically there'll be some variety in what we see servicer to servicer. And so we're not terribly picky about what we import into the system, meaning we could have some records that might be missing data in a column. We could have some records that maybe have a value that's not actually a valid one per the data dictionary. We'll still import those. The idea is that we'll catch those reporting in data views. So as an example, we could use the CDF records data view to identify, you know, V or Y records that don't have a date that the reinstatement payment needs to show up by. We could filter for obstacle records that we've gotten back from servicers to know, hey, these are things we've uploaded and there's a problem with this, and there's some work that we've got to do in order to be able to pay benefits. You can look at again, V or Y records. This is stuff from the servicer that lets us know how much, basically how much we need to pay on the mortgage. You can filter for reinstatement amounts that are over our program cap, so we can make some quick decisions on, you know, sorry, we'd love to help, but we just can't. And that again is reporting that can be done at that top level to help you make those decisions quickly. We can reconcile our exported B records against payment details. We can filter for P records with overages or shortages. You know, really the sky's the limit on what you can do in the CDF records data view. So, you know, I say what else down here because I'm sure that those of you watching that are intimately involved with the CDF have already seen, you know, tons of things. And just to let you know, you can use data views to kind of filter for these at the top level and say, hey, we've got these 10 applications with a problem, and it's not even worth our time to underwrite these because we know that, you know, they owe 50,000 more than we could even pay. So just need to get them out of the queue. So that is how data views can be useful for CDF reporting. CDF record aging report. So this is a report that lets us see records that we have sent to servicers where we have not yet received a response. And this report looks for B records with no P records. Basically, we sent you some money. You haven't told us you got it. I records with no validation or obstacle received in response. Hey, we want to pay some benefits. Hello. What is that okay? Or Q records. Hey, we need new information. Can you send it to us, please? The report starts looking for all of these things. You can specify one record at a time, but let's take a look at it really quickly. So under our reports option, CDF record aging report, pull this up. And again, this is a demo environment, so I think anything's going to show up initially. We let you select records exported after. So, you know, sometimes stuff's just not going to come in. So we allow you to kind of cut off the really old stuff. We allow you to pick, what am I interested in? Either all records or one at a time. And then number of days without response. How late does something have to be before it shows up on this report? So I'm going to cast a little bit of a wider net here and rerun the report. And it looks like I sent out a B record to Chase Home Mortgage for this loan, and I haven't received a P record back from the servicer. And so I have not tested this, but I'm going to try to now import this P record and cause this record to drop off this report. So basically this is saying we sent some money for this guy and Chase hasn't said they got it yet. So now I'm going to try to import a file that would indicate they got it. And I really hope this works because I just mocked this up. So, all right. So I navigated, chose the file, clicked upload record, and the system told me, hey, we got it. We're good. It imported one record. I can view a log file here. This is the history of how the import went. If I see an error icon or a warning icon, this log file will let me know the problems with that import. But now let's find that report again. All right, and now let's rerun it. If all goes well, this should drop off since I just imported a P record. That should resolve that B record. Awesome. All right, so that P record did come back. So now we have received a response for that, so it no longer shows up on the report. So awesome. I'm glad that worked. But this record can get a little bit big, or this report rather can get a little bit big. But it's also something that can be exported to Excel. So if you need to send a list to a particular servicer, you can do that. If you need to do some more work on it, you can do that. So hopefully this lets you know where you have stuff you need to track down. All right, we're getting close to the end, I promise. So what CDF extras do we have in the system? So the first thing I'll show you is on our underwriting screen. This is kind of the heart of the matter. This is where our underwriters really make decisions, right? On this screen here, they enter income data, they can enter a housing ratio, they enter, are we approved or not? Down here, they'll enter some payments. Fee records and Y records that come back from the servicer indicating how much we're past due. will show up on the screen right above where we enter what those payments are. So we can reconcile, hey, the servicer is letting us know we have to pay this much. Currently, we have it set up as this much. We need to fix that. Hey, they owe $31,000 as a catch-up payment. Oops. Clicking on that will take you to the final detail of the record. But how much do we need to enter as a reinstatement payment? So we show you that CDF information as an underwriter when you are making that underwriter decision on screen. What else do we have? So we have included some CDF information in our kind of underwriting data view. So we have reinstatement good through dates. In other words, when does the catch-up payment have to come to us by? We also have a calculation of how many days past due or how many days to go until that date. And then lastly, on MyQ, we have a visual indicator of CDF records for the application. So we show this blue letter lets us know what record type is the most recent CDF record associated with this application. And if you hover over it, you'll see the servicer and then the status and the date. So for this application, if you remember, I queued an I record just today. For this application, this is probably much older. Yeah, over a year ago, we queued an I record due to go to USAA. So that is all I had to go over for the CDF. Again, very, very kind of deep, heavy subject. I appreciate you sticking with me through it. It's definitely a win for the HAP program, definitely something that can be leveraged to really streamline benefits going from your agency to servicers. So it's, you know, it's not so bad once you get to know it. And we've built a lot of things into ProLink Plus to hopefully help you manage that CDF process better. So with that said, again, Jim, I will turn it back over to you and thank you all for your time today.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. Yeah, thanks again, Joe, and thanks for everyone. Thanks to everyone for joining the session. I hope you found some good information here and some good value in what Joe presented today. As a reminder, a copy of the PowerPoint is going to be available here at the bottom of the page within the ProLink Tech Live website. You can also come back and watch the recording of the session at any time. Even if the conference is over, you'll be able to still log onto the platform for about 90 days to watch any of these session recordings. There is also a survey available on the right side of your screen. So please provide any feedback that you might have for the session. You can also type in any outstanding questions that were not answered during the session. So that does conclude our session today. We do hope that you check out the other sessions available on the other track throughout the rest of the day. For the next 15 minutes until about 3 Eastern time, please join Coffee and Bagel. This is our feature we're highlighting at this year's conference to encourage interaction amongst attendees. When you do click on the discussions item under the community menu item on the platform, you will find the Coffee and Bagel room set up where you can join. Each room can accommodate up to 6 people, and you're able to create your own room and wait for others to join if the other ones are full. So thanks again for joining us for ProLink Tech Live 2022.